The Nyari were a gentle species, peaceful, artistic, and utterly unprepared for war. When the Gorthek horde invaded their lush green world, there were no soldiers to fight back, no weapons to resist with. Desperate and terrified, the Nyari sent out a galaxy-wide distress call. They didn't expect much, just a sliver of mercy. But most civilizations turned away, unwilling to risk their fleets for a helpless race. It seemed like the universe had made its choice. But then, something unexpected happened. A signal came back. Not from a council, not from diplomats, but from a Deathworld Earth, a planet infamous for its harsh conditions and even harsher inhabitants. The humans didn't reply with negotiations. They mobilized. Within days, their ships appeared in orbit, and they didn't come to talk. They came to end the nightmare. Because when humans answer a call for help, they don't bring sympathy. They bring force. In a quiet corner of the Orion Arm, the Nyari homeworld shimmered like an emerald against the black. Athos was a planet of art, harmony, and stillness. The Nyari were not warriors. They had no need to be. For thousands of years, they nurtured their culture, sculpting crystalline cities into the mountains and floating botanical sanctuaries across lakes. Violence was foreign to them, literally, but peace, as many had learned across the galaxy, was not a guarantee. The Gorthek horde, a nomadic war clan originating from the dying moons of Gracker 7, had become infamous for their brutal planetary raids. They weren't interested in conquest or diplomacy. They scoured planets for resources, enslaved populations, and moved on once the soil was dry and the sky dark. When their fleet dropped out of warp above Athos, there was no declaration of war. Only fire. Within hours, Nyari communication relays were torched. Orbital structures were shattered by kinetic bombardments. The Nyari, completely unarmed, could do little more than flee into the forests and caves. Their planetary defenses, limited to weather monitoring satellites and a few atmospheric drones, were annihilated on impact. Their only active resistance was a single message broadcast into deep space. To any who can hear us. We are under attack. We have no means to defend ourselves. Please help us. The Galactic Concord, a loose union of species claiming to uphold peace and neutrality, received the message. But most member states dismissed it. Some feared the Gorthek retaliation. Others claimed non-intervention policies. A few quietly mourned what they assumed was the end of the Nyari civilization. But one ship, drifting at the edge of human Terran-controlled space, did more than listen. It answered. Captain Adrienne Halle, commander of the human reconnaissance. Carrier Seraphim heard the signal while returning from a routine patrol near the Harkin Expanse. Her AI flagged it as non-standard analog distress, raw emotion, no encryption. She listened once, then stood. Put it on fleet-wide broadcast, she ordered. Within 3 hours, a rapid deployment fleet was en route to Athos. No request for approval, no Senate deliberation. The humans had protocols for this. Officially, humanity had been part of the Galactic Concord for less than 50 years. But even in that short time, they developed a reputation. Deathworlders. That's what the other species called them. Beings evolved from a violent, high-pressure ecosystem filled with apex predators, climate shifts, and self-inflicted wars. Earth was classified as a Class 12 death world. The same rating given to planets where atmospheric toxins, terrain, or life forms made survival nearly impossible. But humans didn't just survive, they thrived. Their biology wasn't the only thing that set them apart. It was their psychology. Humans were stubborn, unpredictable, and frighteningly efficient under pressure. Most species had evolved in environments that favored avoidance and harmony. Humans, by contrast, learned to solve conflict head-on. And when pushed far enough, they pushed back hard. When the human fleet arrived above Athos, the Gorthek were still gorging themselves on plunder. The Gorthek commander, Brock-Tile sneered when sensors detected human warships entering orbit. "Send a warning shot," he barked. "They'll leave like the others." But the humans didn't leave. Instead, coordinated EMP strikes disabled every Gorthic orbital platform. Drone carriers deployed precise kinetic warheads to obliterate their supply frigates without harming the planet below. Within 2 hours, the Gorthic space superiority was gone. Then came the ground teams. The human response was surgical. Exo-armored strike units dropped into jungle zones, coordinated by AI-assisted satellites. Gorthak forces, used to facing unarmed civilians or slow-moving security drones, were overwhelmed by mobile infantry using adaptive camouflage, sonic disruptors, and rail-assisted projectiles. But it wasn't just raw firepower that set the humans apart. It was restraint. Minimize collateral. Protect civilians. Take prisoners if possible, came Hale's orders. When one human squad found a Nyari family huddled beneath a collapsed crystal dome, they didn't walk past, they carried them to safety under fire. By the 6th day, the Gorthit began to retreat. Their command network shattered, their morale broken. They fled into orbit and jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind scorched landing craft and empty threats. Athos had been saved. In the aftermath, the Nyari gathered in silent awe around the human drop zones. They offered what they could: jewels, crafted light songs, crystal books. But the human commander declined. "We don't need gifts," Hale said. "We heard your call." That was enough. When asked why they came when no one else would, Hale's response was simple: because if we don't help the innocent when it matters most, what does all this power mean? The Galactic Concord was shaken. Not by the human firepower. They had long suspected humanity had grown beyond what they claimed. But by the willingness to use it on behalf of others, even when there was no benefit to gain. Many diplomats began reconsidering humanity's role in the greater galactic structure. Some feared it. Others saw a new kind of leadership. But all agreed on one thing: the Deathworlders had changed the game. Athos healed slowly. With human assistance, their orbital satellites were rebuilt, their cities restored. The Nyari, ever grateful, composed an entire symphony called "When the Fire Fell from the Sky." Dedicated to Earth, humanity has always moved on. They didn't stay to govern, didn't demand tribute, didn't leave monuments. They left one message in orbit: call again if you need us, we'll answer. Because when Deathworlders show up, it isn't for conquest. It's for justice. The story of Athos didn't end with the departure of the human fleet. In many ways, it had just begun. The Galactic Concord, shaken by humanity's bold intervention, scrambled to respond. Emergency meetings were held behind closed doors. The Nyari ambassador, still recovering from the trauma of planetary invasion, stood before the assembly and gave the first direct statement in weeks: "We will not forget." The silence from the Concord. But neither will we forget who broke it. It wasn't an accusation, it was a mirror. One that showed many species just how far their policies of neutrality had fallen from their ideals. Some member states praised the humans' bravery. Others whispered about how dangerous they were becoming. After all, Earth had moved without approval, launched a military response into Concord space, and dismantled a Gorthek invasion in less than a week. They hadn't waited for politics. They had simply acted. But the ripple effect of that decision spread far beyond the Nyari. Homeworld, across a dozen fragile colonies, refugees and frontier settlements heard the story. Not the official reports, but the real one, the raw footage. Leaked comms and blurry helmet cam shots of Terran soldiers carrying Nyari children through burning gardens. A viral image surfaced across Concord networks, a human soldier kneeling, handing a Nyari child a small datapad with soft lights and old Earth toy. Meant for comfort, the caption read simply, "Deathworlders don't run." Suddenly, the word Deathworlder no longer just meant dangerous. It meant reliable, it meant protector. For the first time, species that once kept their distance from humans began requesting embassies, defense agreements, and cultural exchanges. Not out of fear but respect. Still, not everyone was pleased. The Gorthak didn't forget their defeat. Their pride, built on centuries of domination, had been shattered by what they called warm-blooded berserkers. Rumors spread that Brock, Tal, the defeated Gorthak commander, had sworn revenge. Some believed he began rallying old factions in the outer rifts, preparing for something worse. Others claimed he disappeared completely hunted, some say, by someone wearing black Terran armor. No proof ever surfaced back on Earth. The reaction was mixed. Some political leaders questioned Captain Hale's decision to bypass protocol. Others military. Leaders, veterans, and citizens defended her. To most humans, it wasn't a debate. Someone cried out for help. And help was given. Admiral Myoko Tanaka, head of the Earth Defense Fleet, summarized it best in a speech to the Terran Assembly. "We do not seek war. But if there is a child afraid, and no one else will stand between them and the fire, then we will. Not because it is easy, but because it is right. That is who we are. That is why we're feared and why we are trusted." The Terran fleet expanded. Its aid response division shortly after. Humanity didn't seek to control planets or carve out empires. But from that day on, if a distress signal echoed through the stars, everyone knew who might answer. And so, quietly, respectfully, the Nayari placed a monument in their capital. It was not grand. Not golden, just a smooth black stone, inscribed with